2008 Dodge Ram, driver's side CV axle replacement. Jack up the vehicle, support the vehicle, take the wheel off. Once I take the wheel off, I'm gonna let the vehicle down on the jack stand. Alright, now I'm using a 36mm axle nut socket on an impact. And I'm gonna take out this axle nut. If you are using manual tools, which is a breaker bar, I would normally take the wheel off, push that center cap off, put the wheel back on, and then take the axle nut off. You should be able to put your socket through there once you take this center cap off. That's if you're doing it by yourself. If not, once you get to this point, you may have to have someone go inside the car and step on the brakes so you can break this loose. So let me get that axle nut off. Alright, I got that loose. Next thing you want to do is push on the axle. Make sure it is free, so it moves a little, so it's not locked up. And if any case it is, you may have to turn this on and make it flush and pound on it with a hammer. But you don't want to hit it too badly that you will mushroom the threads on the axle, because you have to reuse this. Well, you don't have to reuse this bolt. The new one should come with a new nut, but still, you're gonna have to hit this to get it to move in and out. But mine is moving freely. So now the next thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and I'm gonna take off this outer tie rod using a 21mm. I'm gonna get this outer tie rod bolt off. So I got that nut loose. Now I'm gonna hit on the knuckle and try to release the pressure from this outer tie rod. If you strike here hard enough, it should shock it and it should pop up. Alright, so I got it free. I can take the nut off, put the nut back on. Now we're gonna tackle this upper control arm. Same socket, except I'm gonna have to do it manually with a socket and ratchet. 21mm upper control arm bolt. It's right here. Okay, as you can see, it's coming out. That should be enough threads. I'm taking it out with the long socket. Now I'm gonna switch to the short socket, because if you go too many threads, your socket and ratchet to get stuck on this brace. So I'm gonna switch to the smaller socket and get that off the rest of the way. Just like we did the outer tie rod, we're gonna leave a couple threads on the nut, strike the knuckle, and hopefully this will pop free. You're not using a pickle fork because it'll damage the boot, and you're not going to be able to reuse it because the grease is going to leak out. So you're going to strike here and hope that it pop out. Unless you got like one of them Pitman arm tools or something that clamp under and push up on there, but I'm not about to go get that tool just yet. So I got it freed up with a couple love taps. Just got to take this nut off the outer tie rod, and it should give me enough clearance to swing this knuckle down towards me and to the side to pull that CV axle out. But you got to be careful. As you can see how this line is stressing a little, so we got to secure that. If not, I'll probably just have to take this caliper off. I know it's an extra step, but sometimes you got to do that because it's a turn from you having to do one thing to multiple things. So from the look of it, I think I am just going to take the caliper whole bracket assembly off and set that to the side. So let me get this bracket off. Alright, so using a 21, I'm take out this bolt here and that bolt back there. Now you can see why we're replacing the CV axle. All this grease. And I'm gonna just take off the whole caliper and the bracket assembly as one. Okay, this isn't ideal, but I got it off. I got it hanging by a ratchet strap. Upper control arm is off. Outer tie rod is off. The nut on the CV axle is off. The rotor is off. I mean, you can see the cable is not stressing too much. Besides, I can move it around if I need to, because I'm going to need to. But I should be able to maneuver this knuckle over and get the axle out of the knuckle. Okay, again, I didn't want to, but I had to take this ABS sensor out so I can get a little bit more leverage on this knuckle. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, in order for me to get this axle out of this knuckle without removing the lower ball joint, I'm on the driver's side. I had to turn, now the shit brake free. Ain't that a bitch? I had to turn the spindle towards the driver door and pull it out with the axle facing the front of the bumper. If you turn it towards the front of the bumper, the knuckle, and pull it out like this, it's not going to give you enough clearance. So you got to turn the spindle towards the driver door, and your axle has to be facing the front of the bumper in order to get it out without taking this knuckle off. Now you can go up under with your drain pan, because some fluid is going to leak out. Go behind the axle and try and pry it out. Sometimes they get stuck in there, but they will come out. And you will leak fluid. So I'm going to try and get that out now. Okay, so what I'm doing up under the truck is I'm taking a pry bar and a hammer, and right on the CV axle, right here, I'm hitting it as hard as I could. And it's actually freeing up. You see that silver up there? So I should be able to pull it out. Alright, I got the axle out. This is where it's busted. It was flinging grease, and he said when he was driving he hear a clicking sound. So this is what we are replacing. Now I got to get the new one and match it up. So here's the old one and the new one lined up together. And I don't know how I'm going to get this out, but this is a little small half shaft. That shaft is supposed to come out and get placed into this one. If I can't get it out, customers are going to have to go buy one. And before I even put everything together, I always take the nut off before I go too far. And take the axle right in front of the spindle through the bearing and see if it fits, because sometimes the splines do not go in. So that lines up. So we could use this axle, but we got to figure out how to get that little half shaft out and get that pressed into this one. So we back. We got the new part. This is this little stub shaft that was stuck in there. And this is how it go in. You gotta pound it in. Then we can get that back into the vehicle. So what we're gonna try to do is put the axle in, the knuckle first, and then try and get it into the front differential. Then we're gonna use the whole axle as a slide hammer to force it into the differential. It should click in and it should lock in. So I ended up taking a knuckle off to give me more room so I can use this axle as a slide hammer. And we got it all the way back. Now when putting the knuckle on, you start the bottom ball joint, you lean it, and then you get the axle in. So we got the knuckle on, upper ball joint, lower ball joint, CV axle, outer tie rod. We got everything on. Now we just gotta tighten it up. ABS cable is ran on the correct side. We just run it up to the control line, plug it in, get the brakes and rotors on. I'm gonna do that all off camera. We got everything tightened down. Axle, outer tie rod, upper ball joint, lower ball joint. Got the ABS connected and routed. Get the rotor and brake on. Put the wheel on and we're done. So we got everything back together. Now we just jacking the vehicle up so we can get the wheel on. And lastly, we got the wheel on and we are done. 2008 Dodge Ram driver CV axle replacement. I'll see you on the next video. All right.